Hello, Peri Posse. This is Terah Harrison, licensed professional counselor, and I'm here with Dr. Jenny Martin. We're going to be talking about spirituality during perimenopause. Welcome, Jenny. Please tell us about yourself.
Lovely to see you again, Tara. I am a sexuality teacher. My program's the psychedelic cervix. I also teach about Mary Magdalene, and my work involves science, female sexuality, and spirituality.
So, we might get into a little female sexuality too, because that is my favorite topic, as Jenny knows. So,
Yeah.
just be prepared. Jenny has been on my podcast, Make More Love, Not War, in the past, as well as my Shameless Sexual Revolution podcast. So we've known each other for a while, and she's made so many contributions to what I'm doing, and she's doing so many amazing things that I'm really excited to have this melding of the minds today.
I love what you do. I mean, you have done a lot to help people feel less ashamed about their sexuality. So I really honor you about that, Tara.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it. And well, so let's just dig into spirituality during perimenopause. I will say that for everybody listening, I got to do this wonderful summer. I think it was 2021 maybe. I can't remember when we did this, but I took the Mary Magdalene course with Jenny, and it was at the beginning of perimenopause for me, and it was such a I didn't even really know I was in it then, but now I look back and I'm like, "Oh, that's what that was." But it was such a moving experience for me to be able to do that and to identify with the feminine aspect of spirituality. It's really what I needed at that time, and so I wanna thank you for that, and also, maybe we could just jump into let's talk about Mary Magdalene and what she brings to the table for us spiritually.
Oh, wow. What a lovely invitation. What a lovely big topic,
I
too.
know, right? I
Yeah.
just jumped right in.
Mary Magdalene is having her day right now. There are so many more people. You are a forerunner there, Tara, because when you took the program in 2021, there were people interested, but man, oh man, that has exploded in 2026. And do you know the guy named Nostradamus?
Oh, yes, yes,
So
yes.
the guy, I have a book, I won't grab it, but he predicted this. He didn't predict Mary Magdalene in the specific words, but he predicted that there would be a rising of the feminine, and that would be the answer. A lot of times,
I love that. He was a
yeah,
smart man.
if he's interpreted through a lot of times through a patriarchal view, through the masculine lens, his quatrains are seen doom and gloom. But it took someone who, actually a woman and a man that has a disposition towards the divine feminine, looked at his stuff and said, no, no, he did not say that. He saw a rising of the divine feminine. So that's just interesting side. But Mary Magdalene, it's a huge topic, and it's where I started my journey. So I started my journey because I had had a lot of sex negative stuff, partly Ireland, growing up there. It has its own milieu, and there's a lot of sexual abuse going on and that nobody talks about, and there's all that stuff, right?
Yes.
So that was one aspect. And the other aspect was just the oppressive religious idea that our bodies are not part of the whole spiritual domain. And so I first encountered a book that by Margaret Stragard, The Woman with the Alabaster Jar, when she put it out in the 90s, that my partner actually found and got me. And that started a metamorphosis in my life, and ultimately got me to the point where I'd be sharing programs on it. But what it does is it gives us a vision that I think ancient women had. I think ancient women had that our bodies are the connection. And today, if you go to your gynecologist or you go to your doctor, you're just compartmentalized. You're seen as, okay, there's this neurochemistry, biochemistry going on in you. There's this part of your body that's doing this, but there's not this holistic idea that no, there's this spiritual river that's running below all of that. And if we can tap into that source, we can drink from that and bring a new quality to our body, because there's been more and more understanding that the mind body are connected. But really, the mind body are connected to we don't operate just in our own, we're not, I'm not consciously aware of beating my own heart right now. I'm not consciously aware of my own breath. There is a divine force that's underneath all of that. And it's that awareness. And unfortunately, when Mary Magdalene was cut out of the whole story,
So
and
first, Jenny, I'll just have you back up because not everybody knows who Mary Magdalene is or what story you're talking about. So, who is she and what story is she cut
yeah,
out of?
thank you for, I appreciate that. So, unfortunately, still in the predominant paradigm on the right and the left, both, she's seen
Hmm.
as a prostitute. If you watch the docuseries,
In the Bible, right? We're talking about. So, just to be really clear, Mary Magdalene, who was a disciple of Jesus in the Bible.
yeah, that
That's where
one.
most people know her.
So if you watch the docuseries The Chosen or series The Chosen, you're going to see her as a prostitute. If you pick up a book called The Immortality Key, which is not that same culture, it's about psychedelics and it's about it. And they talk about the power that Mary Magdalene has, but they still put her in the camp or in the frame of she was a prostitute. So there's really this vacuum of information. When you tell a lie, and then you maybe correct the lie later on, but the lie, if it has long enough to stick, it remains in collective consciousness. So where that lie came from was Pope Gregory in 591. He said that there's this unnamed prostitute in the Bible. And it's not, just clarify this, it's not like sex work is problematic, but
Yes.
a lot of what we're versioning here, and you do see it in the Bible, is women held as slaves, right? So who would want
So,
to be that?
like
That's
sex
not desirable.
trafficking is what we're talking about.
We're not talking about some divine priestess. The way that she's been framed is some sex slave, right? And
Hmm.
that's not desirable. And so that's what Pope Gregory in 591 basically said. Oh, yeah, she's just this lowly character. Then in, I believe it was 1969. So take the fifth or
Oh,
sixth century all the way to 1969. Oopsie, we made a mistake. She's not that prostitute. And they actually, around that time, they canonized her as a saint. The Catholic Church canonized Mary Magdalene as a saint. And they've also come out officially and said she was the apostle of the apostles. But the lie stuck. The lie stuck, and it's still in the collective unconscious. And then a lot of people who are reclaiming her want to spin that and say, well, she was divine priestess and doing work in the temples. Could be, but my own research tells me that she was something even beyond all of that, that she was the first alchemist. And so alchemy, that's a longer discussion for our time right now. But basically, alchemy is not magic. It's been associated with the Harry Potter stuff and all of that. But what alchemy is what Sir Isaac Newton studied, the first scientist. It was the original science and it was the original religion. And it does equate with some Eastern, it does equate with early Egypt. That's where Mary Magdalene originated, Alexandria. Her gospel was found when it was recovered. Gospel Mary was found in this birth, in also the place that this woman called Mary the prophetess or Mary the Jewess. Jesus and Mary were Jews, right?
hmm.
She was the first alchemist. And what we're talking about alchemy is the ability to tap into this life force energy that runs, that connects us, that indigenous people knew about. I live in Seattle. Chief Seattle, the indigenous leader of Seattle, has made comments about when he was alive. There's an invisible web, not the internet, but an invisible
Hmm.
web that connects us all. All right.
Jenny, is this the quantum field?
But it's actually,
No.
if you, it is related to that. But I've taken the science of this from a guy that used to work for the classified intelligence. He used to do classified physics work. And it's what we're talking about is actually not even recognized in academia. So quantum physics is, but a layer deeper than quantum physics that actually connects us to the cosmos and that runs our bodies, that is primarily forms our biofield, right? And then during sex, It's what connects us. I mean, during sex, it's actually this field that creates the new consciousness. If you're doing if you're creating a new life, right?
Mhm.
The consciousness comes from this field. And then if you're having non-reproductive sex, which is the exciting part after your menstruation stops, this is the exciting part, because then you really get to explore what the alchemists were originally talking about, because originally alchemy was sexual. And the reason why it was so coded and secretive in those books, they didn't want it to get out because it's so powerful how we use this energy. If you had ill intent to use it against another person, destroy another person, you could crush their soul. That's the idea.
Literally, yeah.
And I mean, in CERN in Switzerland, they're working on alchemy. They're working on at this very level of what happens. And when you work at this very deep level, but we don't need particle colliders. We have it in our body, this ability. And so Mary Magdalene, we don't have her, Mary the alchemist, we don't have her books, but there's an alchemist in the 3rd century who was a Christian, and he called Mary as the highest of the teachers, and this Mary woman, and he was quoting her stuff that he had access to in the 3rd century that was still available, and he was quoting, and his books are still existing.
So
His
who is this?
his name is Zosimos of and his book still exists. So when the libraries of Alexandria were burned down, his stuff didn't get destroyed, which is
Wow.
remarkable.
It's
Now,
amazing.
there's been a huge secrecy around this because to this day, his stuff was written in Greek, right? Eventually in 1890, a guy came along from France and translated the Greek into French. To this day in 2026, nobody has translated this stuff into English. So I'm actually working on a book about this because it talks about, it's not Hermes. Hermes is it's a mythological guy, right?
Mhm.
Mary Magdalene walked the friggin' earth.
She was for reals. She was
Yeah,
real.
well, Mary
Yes,
the
real
Alchemist walked
human.
the friggin' earth, right? So,
Same
so
person, right? Same person.
it's
Mary
the
Magdalene,
same
Mary the
person.
Alchemist.
It is the
Yes.
same person, and you can't. Unfortunately, we can't rely on ChatGPT or Google for this because it's not out there. You have to do digging, and this information has been covered over hugely. So it's kind of a long answer.
No, that's really interesting. And I mean, I can imagine it doesn't serve the patriarchy for this kind of power that women have to really be known. And the idea that we have this sexual power, this sexual energy that men don't possess, right? Because you talked about how, and this is something that other people don't know, but of course you talked about it, about how our cervix can release DMT. And we have this sexual power. It's also why women as priestesses, there can be a sexual component as that with that too, but not just DMT. What you're saying is that more than just this chemical, it's this connection to something that's even deeper than the quantum field.
Exactly. So when all this information got suppressed, it was by the patriarchy. And there's a person that knew all about that, was actually studying the works of Mary, and that was Sir Isaac Newton, the first scientist. And his stuff on alchemy didn't come out until way years after his death, because he could have been put to death by the church for
Yeah,
talking
I can
about
see
this.
that.
And his belief was that alchemy, when it got suppressed, it got used in very dark ways. And it's actually the basis of a lot of the secret societies that are run by men only. And women are the pawn. They recognize that women are the force, but they extract it from women in very dark ways and use them. And so he saw that the world was going to unravel and humanity was going to collapse if this is the way this technology kept going. I mean, it's not a technology, it's in here. But this goes along with what I began today with: Nostradamus, Newton. I mean, we're talking about two men, but two men that saw the truth. And these men saw that women are at the core of this and are the answer, right? And so Isaac Newton realized that It's not just about giving this information to people. It's about having people steward their connection to a higher power. Because if it's just another using of the energy for manipulative purposes, is currently going on the planet right now, then we devolve humanity again. So it has to be led by women, because women, I mean, are hardwired for more empathy. And it's more likely that women are not going to steward the power against, which is happening now. And so it's to take the power and to learn about the power, but then to use it wisely. And listen, I mean, I believe in a higher power, I believe in God. And there's a divine design of the female male, like actually in a female male body. And I teach self-pleasure practice, and I teach getting to highest state through that and stuff. But really, if you want to talk about the true alchemy, the true tapping into this, it is the sexual union between a male body and a female body. And women do have this power, but it is not going to happen in the same extent through a self-pleasure practice. It's just not. It's going to happen through male, female. And if you look at, why do we experience pleasure even after we stop bleeding?
Mhm.
What is the purpose of our sexuality? Well, it ties into everything we're talking about here. Our divine creator designed female fertility in the animal kingdom to be directly tied to the ability to propagate the species. So, and this is what evolutionary biologists talk all about. But they reduce it to, that's the same for humans. Yes, that's the same for men, because men can reproduce right up until their dying day, but it's not for women. And usually the popular media says, oh, poor women, you can't have a kid. We can when you're older. No, 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 no. That's not how this context happens in the alchemy whole idea of this. The idea is that we are designed primarily to raise consciousness through our sexuality. And that's why the fertility aspect gets taken off the table at a certain point,
Mhm.
because the potency rises then. The most potency rises then to be able to access through the knowledge of this, working with this alchemical force, to be able to rise this energy to access, yes, the DMT state and the pineal gland and all of that, but we are all vibration. The whole planet is vibration. That's in this invisible web. That's this alchemical force that connects us all. When enough people wake up and access this higher state, the whole planet can tip into another state of consciousness. And so it's being kept down right now. Alchemy, through the Aleister Crowley crown and all of that, is being kept for some of these Epstein folks, right? I mean, that's what these folks are practicing behind closed doors, right? It's the movie Eyes Wide Shut. And
Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah, and the basis of that is alchemy. The basis of all those secret societies those people belong to is alchemy, but it's alchemy with the woman as the rape victim,
Yes.
and it's extracting her life force to use it to open portals, but they're not opening portals to the divine good. They're opening portals to the opposite of that.
And Jenny, what this makes me think about, did you ever see The Dark Crystal?
I did not.
Okay, it's Jim Henson and George Lucas,
Okay.
and you should watch it. But they
Okay.
have this scene where they are extracting the life force from this Muppet through the eyes of the Muppet, and it's dripping into this little beaker kind of thing where the evil people are going to be drinking the life force. And I saw that as a child and could never get that out of my mind because it always felt that was happening to me on some level. I mean, I could just feel as a female there's this just pull from women, and that scene always connected, and it is describes exactly what you're talking about with things eyes wide shut and the secret societies taking this life force, and it was really captured in The Dark Crystal, so you should check it out.
Yeah, some of these, I mean, some of these movies are not at all informed, but movie that it's disclosure at a certain level.
It
And
is.
yes, but I don't spend much time watching them because it's the movies are also giving off a vibration, and you can merge with the vibration and lock into a lower vibration. So it's kind of a balance. I want yes, we want the information. And I think some of those movies are on purpose to wake people up. They get the message at a deeper level and they know. And how do we use that information? Well, we realize that the, the eyes are the window of the soul is not just a saying. It actually is. You can look into the eyes of someone and register in your body, if you're present in your body, the vibration that they're holding. But really, the extraction is not so much from the eyes, the extraction is from the genitals. The extract that's where
Yeah.
they extract. And when you do harmful acts to another person, your life force is always lower. So you always have to extract from other people. But when you're practicing alchemy, it was originally intended by Mary and Yeshua.
With love.
It was the epitome of what in the Christian tradition is known as the Holy Communion. But the Christian church inverted it and made it about eating the bread and wine to symbolize dead flesh and blood, which is a cannibalistic inversion of it, which was not what they both taught originally. What they both taught originally, and there's something called the Great Questions of Mary, which is a scripture that's been suppressed. And that shows Jesus had sex with Mary. And during that sex, they reached a mountain it was often used as a metaphor for higher states. And they reached this higher state through this loving. There was intimacy first, and there was all of that and emotional connection. And they reached this higher state. And we're at this point in the world right now where it's a time for women to rise up and reclaim this force and have it be used for a higher purpose rather than it being used against us. And it's very convenient to be told the force doesn't exist, to be told that, oh, that's esoteric BS. But what's also coming out in the Epstein files is that these people knew exactly about this force. And Epstein told top scientists at Harvard, write articles, told the Harvard scientists, write articles to disclaim out-of-body experiences, to disclaim otherworldly stuff, write articles to say that it's not true. So they wanted the information for themselves, and they wanted the general public to say, oh, well, I just Googled it. It's not real. It's pseudoscience. No. There's a scientific basis for this stuff that Mary, the alchemist, knew. She wasn't just doing some kind of esoteric stuff. She was also doing the science, because that's what original, religion was. It was a balance of science and religion. And by the way, Carl Jung came in and interpreted Mary's stuff, and he interpreted just as having to do with here. And that became the basis of psychotherapy, that it was a shadow self and it was the masculine and feminine. Jung put his own interpretation on it, and that became the rule of law in the world today. And everybody sees it as just in here. But Jung also said, hey, why is it so secretive? Because it's just all in here. Why is it so secretive? Why is there so much coded language? Well, that's because, Jung, it wasn't just an internal thing. It was always about sex and merging with the cosmos. It wasn't just your shadow self and your unconscious. So, I mean, he did useful work, and it's been helpful to a lot of people, but that's not where the real power is. It's not. Just working on your internal shadow self is not where the real power is. So.
And so we're talking about merging with the cosmos during sex. People talk a lot about peak sexual experiences, and I think that's happening, and people aren't realizing what it is, and they're just saying, I'm having a peak sexual experience, and I kind of feel I'm hallucinating and things but I've had that experience before. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It is that feeling. Maybe I've never done ayahuasca, but what people report about feeling one with the universe in this moment. And I will say that after I learned what you've taught me about Mary Magdalene, that I have been able to access that feeling also just through visualizing Mary Magdalene pouring light into my body and connecting with her, and then connecting with this divine feminine. And so earlier you said Mary Magdalene's been really big in 2026. And I think a lot of this, maybe bringing this back to perimenopause too, is once sex is past reproduction and our brains change, then we're kind of into this grandmother hypothesis, which is what a lot of the people in menopause community are talking about, doctors and things like that, which is this: once you get past that state, women can become these really, not that women can't be leaders at any other time, but you have this capacity to become this leader, and that maybe people are seeking that out because they're not so bathed in estrogen. When I'm not saying estrogen is bad, I love estrogen, I'm on the patch. But when we have so much estrogen, we're really focused on what's in front of us, tending children and all of these things. When you're able to start to connect to this higher level of spirituality, and you want it to be feminine, because we're pretty tired of all of this male energy coming into us, and we don't have enough estrogen to really tolerate it anymore. That I've definitely felt that difference from the chemical change in my body. If I'm just really tired of dealing with all of the morphing of myself for masculinity. Not that I don't welcome the masculine energy, but I also think that I want more. I know that I need more feminine energy. And so I'm wondering if people are realizing that more. Maybe, I don't know if you're having an age group of women that are more interested in this, but I, I'm just thinking, I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm just wondering about this connection between the sexual connection, and also just really yearning for the divine feminine connection at some point in your life, because it's what you need, or it, for me, it was what I needed. And when I took that course with you in 2021, in the beginning of my perimenopause time, it was really perfect timing for me.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing all that. Well, I think it's by divine design that this happens at a certain point in our lives for women, that we do seek that connection, that divine feminine connection. But maybe you could say it's not happening fast enough because the world is in a mess, right? So I see it's not just women who have passed through menopause that I'm finding seeking her. I'm finding younger women as well. And the
It's
only
great.
thing that I can understand it to be is that when things turn dark, as they are on the planet, that it's no longer, oh, I can figure this out. I know what's going to happen. We can just use our minds, our heads. At some point, it's this is freaking too crazy.
It's so much bigger.
It's
Yeah.
beyond if it was just one thing going on, but it's stacked constantly, constantly. It's at you, and it's overwhelm. We all have our own individual problems, and then you stack it on top of what's going on the mass scale, and it's just come on already. Overload, 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 and it becomes you can collapse under that if it's on your own weight. You can numb out, which some people choose to, or you can say, I have got to figure out this spirituality thing because I can't do this. I can't figure this out on my own. And it's at that point, there's the invitation. And then a lot of people have grown up in a traditional religious faith and they have moved away from it because they wanted to reclaim their sexuality. And then it's okay, well, is there something here for me that doesn't offend me being a
Yes.
sexual being, but also gives me solace, also gives my inner person, inner self peace? And there is. And so I think we're in a great grand awakening where women of all ages can come together and there's an understanding of we're tapping into something beyond us through our sexuality. We're tapping into a divine power. And when we hold that reverence for that, we interact with the male, not from a people pleasing position anymore, but from dignity, because I am, and it's not even worshiping the pussy or worshiping the cervix or anything.
Mm.
Yes, there's divine intelligence there, but we didn't create that. I didn't create my DNA. I am not the God. Yes, divinity is within me, but I didn't create any of this. So it's a looking to, wow, I'm tapped into something that's far more magical, infinite than me. And it's not through suffering, which we've been told a lot of
Mhm.
times with growing up in traditional religion.
Oh, yes, for sure. It's through
And
pleasure.
it's through pleasure. But pleasure for me, it's not, I've come to a point where it's not enough to say pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Just let's have more pleasure, more pleasure. Because that can feel empty after a certain point too, because your brain doesn't believe you anymore. Hey, hang on a second, the pleasure, but there's crisis going on. What the pleasure? When it's seen in the context of everything as vibration, and that when the vibration of your whole being is lifted, you actually see answers to problems that you didn't see before. You actually see possibilities that you're on a different level, that you see things and possibilities, and you can, it's not even manifestation or anything, but you actually tap into something that's already been there that can help you through the practicalities of your life. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's not just a peak moment, just to have a peak moment, because people are doing that all the time with psychedelics, and then they're still lost. They're
Right.
still, my life
Yeah.
in sucks. I met God during my ceremony. I was there, but I'm still in a mess. And so this is why we had teachers, Mary Magdalene and stuff, because it's not enough to reach the peak moment, even through sex. It's okay. What does this mean? Oh, well, it means I'm a soul, not just a body. It means that my soul has intelligence. I can tap into that when I'm worried about my job, or worried about my family or whatever. I can tap into this infinite intelligence, get answers, and go forward. I don't just have to have a peak moment and then live a crappy life. This can be an integrated part of the way I live. And coming from a psychology background, I didn't get that when I was going to school. I didn't get that you're tapping into something bigger. And I certainly didn't get from anybody that tapping into could be through sexual pleasure. I was told that you have to sit on a mat and discipline the body and overcome the body to tap into something bigger. So this is the divine feminine path is very different than the solitary meditation retreat where you're on your own to tap in. This is through sensuality, through the sacredness of male female
Connection.
connection. It can be two women as well, but
Yeah.
there is something with male female.
Well, just
Um,
connection though, not solitary, but through connection with
and it's
others, with connection to the divine feminine,
yeah,
connection to the collective consciousness. Not it's not you don't have to do it alone. And this is not the monk path, right? That is what you're
and
saying.
we weren't designed. I mean, even the bacteria in our gut changes when we're in social connection. We have
Oh, I
more.
didn't know that.
I can send you an
That's
example of
cool.
it. We have more of the good guys. If you take probiotics or prebiotics and all that, you're trying to get
Uh-huh.
the bad guys out and the good guys in. Do you
Yeah.
know just having constant social connection can do exactly that?
I
It's
did not know that. That's I
crazy.
mean, I've learned so much about social connection and what it can do for you as a therapist too. And that one I did not know. That's
Yeah.
really cool. I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I learn things that I immediately go to awe and wonder about the divine intelligence that
Yeah.
creates. For me, stuff that doesn't, it really puts it all together for me. We were created magically by a creator that loves us, wants us to be happy, wants us to be loved, wants us to feel great in our bodies, and wants us to connect through love. And we almost have to live from that divine awareness and not pay attention to the collective, because the collective is really lost right now. The collective has the opposite. The collective will tell you pain is pleasure. The collective will tell you suffering is good. The collective will tell you the opposite. And
I
so,
guess that's a good point too. You
y-
collective, it's not just a collective that's always
no,
beneficial. So you have to be careful about what you're connecting to.
the
And
collective is off. Collective is really off. The dominant vibration in the world today is is hopelessness, is despair. And this, I think this is why people are seeking spiritual connection more than before, is because, shoot, the world doesn't have a lot to offer me right now.
well, and something that you taught me back in 2021 also that I use a lot It's very similar to me imagining the light coming from Mary Magdalene. You taught me that. You might remember it. But also just imagining all of our female ancestors as the collective. So I guess when I think of the collective, that's what I'm speaking of. I think of my grandma Delcy. She's one of those that I connect because she was a beautiful soul. And I think of those beautiful souls, and I know that they're in a perfect state now. So they're even more beautiful than they were. So I think of them in their most perfect state. And I imagine, I'm even tearing up thinking about this because it feels so good, Jenny.
Yeah.
Because this is what it has to offer you. And I imagine them just pouring that love into me. And it's so moving that it's amazing. If I'm going through some perimenopause stuff where I'm not sleeping well or not sleeping or whatever, I can always access that. You said at any time, but especially in your lowest, most struggling moments, but at any time, just what we're taught in religion, we can access God anytime. But then we're taught that God is a man and God has all this agenda, right? Which is not actually what God is, but that's what religiously we're taught. And all religions, any religion that's patriarchal is going to teach us that. But really, if you think of that divine, pure love power and that feminine energy that you can just access at any time, it's life changing, and it is changed
That's
my life.
it's really beautiful that you said that. Thank you for sharing that. And I think for all of us, we're all going to reach a point in our life in some way. And when I use the word collective, I'm talking about what's happening on global scale today. There'll
Uh-huh.
be a point where you can't do it on your own. And you have to reach in. And yes, unfortunately, a lot of people can't even contemplate reaching to a higher power because it has been so tainted for them. And that's really sad. And it's a point of reclaiming, no, you're not going to take that from me.
Yes,
It's what
exactly.
it wasn't biochemistry that made you a consciousness. Still today, they cannot understand how a couple cells dividing can create a consciousness. And we all know, if you ever been to a funeral and you see the casket and all of that, that body is not what you knew, what you loved,
Mhm.
what you enjoyed, what you longed, the person that you just so loved. That is not it. It's not this physical that is the person. It's something beyond that. And it's not understandable on a linear way. It isn't. And so there is this higher consciousness. And one distinction with Mary, the alchemist's work back in the day was that she did everything in service of a higher power. It was never just do what I want or it's just my will. And it was always tapping into something higher and always acknowledging with a sense of awe and wonder that there was this higher. And yes, the epitome is love. And she never at all had any sense of the kinds of ways that the patriarchal religion has interpreted this deity. And of course, putting on the gender of it is a completely patriarchal overlay because there's no gender there. But
I think
no,
that's important to really point out that there is no
yeah,
gender
there
there. I
is no
think that's
gender.
really hard for people to wrap their minds around. And the first time that I even thought that, I felt really uncomfortable with it. Is God going to send me to hell because I don't think God is a man or a woman? I remember going through this when I was in college. I was
Mhm.
reading the Gnostic Gospels for the first time then. And I even told my parents that, and there was quite a backlash. They did not appreciate that
Um,
opinion. But and that's what you get a lot if you say that. So I think what you're saying is normal to you, but also very profound for people to hear that there is not a gender there.
and that's the
Not man,
thing.
not female, not male, not female, neither.
But
Transcends.
here's what's beautiful about alchemy. There's the belief that it's kind of a poetic belief that when we show up on the planet, we're half of God kind of thing, and the man is the other half. And this is why there's an alchemical explosion that happens when you join your bodies in a state of pure bliss and love, because you now are the Jewish mysticisms believe this. You now are the whole. It's not, we can certainly interpret that through a lens of codependency, and you just can't go there. You can't
Yeah.
go there because,
Interdependency, not code of
well,
enter.
because this is a spiritual path. And if you don't know who you are first, it's not about finding yourself and your
Exactly.
partner at all. you really need to be grounded and know who you are. But there's this sense that there can be this state. Cynthia Bourgeault has written a beautiful book about Mary Magdalene, but her first book was about falling in love with a monk and a man that she deeply, deeply loved. And she wrote a beautiful book about love after death or something like that, how he passed over and she still has this soul union with him. There was this intense union. And so it's a beautiful description of this intense merging that comes on this other level that can happen when you're alive, but doesn't even leave you on the other side. And ultimately, God experiences itself through us as we have these kinds of rapture experiences. And I don't even try to go there with people. Surely I have people in my life that are a part of traditional religion. It would be zero use for me to try to have that discussion
For
because
sure.
it's a system of belief. It's a
Yes.
system, and so I wouldn't say brainwashing, but it's a system. But right now we're in such a divisive place in the world that the future doesn't belong to systems. That the future belongs to definitely in service of a higher power, because the opposite of not being in service of a higher power is ego running the world, which is exactly what's happened now.
Look how that turns out.
It exactly what happens now. So why will women lead this spiritual transformation in the future? Because we are more humble. A lot of us, right?
We
don't
influence.
yeah. And I don't want to take the credit to that. I'm not going to boast, but men don't.
Well, we hold space for each other. We hold space for others, and we allow space, and we give space rather than take space.
And so, I mean, certainly there's women that are set to that exception, but to be able to tap into something beyond us, that there's almost an innate knowing in our bodies that, wow, our bodies are so magical. There's an awe and wonder that we didn't create. Wow, look at us bleed, and look at it. What's not happening now. And baby, or the whole thing, the beautiful sexual experience that you just described. Wow, how is that? It creates a sense of awe and wonder. And
Yes, it
in
does.
some ways, it's easier for us to recognize, oh, yeah, you don't have to tell me all of that scripture stuff or that even science stuff. You don't even have to tell me that. I know. I'm tapping
Intuition,
into something.
right? The science of intuition, because there is a science behind. I know we don't have enough time to talk about that, but when I know, and people look this up, there is a science around
Yeah.
intuition.
Yes,
It's not
absolutely.
just your gut feeling. I mean, it is, but it's also
Oh.
legitimate.
And it has to do with the fact that how do you know there was a lot of mothers when their sons were killed in battle during World War I, they knew the exact moment it happened,
Yes.
even before
We
they were
felt it.
notified. And
Yeah.
it's because we're connected through this invisible web. We are connected. And there's something, when you birth the baby, you have that strong vibrational connection. And so after your access to reproduction stops, you now have access to that same level of power of tapping in without it being producing a new consciousness, without it being putting all your energy and time and love and care into a new person. You're now working with the unformed universe. You're working with you're being able to birth ideas. Being able to birth connection. You're being able to birth a whole bunch of other powerful transformations that you wouldn't have the time or focus or any energy to do when you're in the childbearing years. So it's a very powerful time of potency.
It is. Yes. It really is. It's amazing. So I think that if you think of a lot of the archetypes that have been misinterpreted, for instance, the crone, right? When people think of the word crone, they think of something negative, but it's actually a very powerful archetype. And it's really about the power that women have in their later years because of exactly what you just said. You're past all of this caring for making sure humans survive, your humans that you created or they're your children and from other sources or whatever. and you can really focus on whatever it is, and you have this space. And and I think the just thinking about how many, for instance, the baby boomers, huge generation, right? There's a lot of women in their 70s and 80s now who are boomers that we need them. We need them to be doing this work. And the Generation X is coming into this as well. And as the generations of women come, we can also reach out to the younger generations. And I'm really glad that they're seeking out Mary Magdalene, because I did not. You talked about the path of healing religiously to be able to get to this place where you're not letting someone take it from you. And that was my journey. And that's what I found in the summer of 2021 when I really discovered that connection to the divine feminine. I was aware of it before, but I just didn't know enough. I didn't know how to connect to it. And and there's so much power in being free from all of the expectations and rules that bring us down, and what it means to be a good mother, wife, woman, female, all of these things. And I think sometimes the reason that this happens so much later on is because it takes all our lives to be able to heal from the trauma of this, and that feeling I had of having my life force drained from me even as a child. I think that we as women, we just experience that. And like you said, in these societies, it's through rape. But I think that there's this level, because we are expected to regulate everybody else, this level that drains from us all the time. And then at some point we say, no, I need to be able to take my power, and I need to be able to uh, flow it into things that also bring me what I need. And the divine feminine is a way to seek that out, that's going to do that for you.
Right, right. And it's not limited. It's unlimited because you're
Unlimited.
not having to generate it yourself. It's
Yeah.
coming through you from an unlimited source. And absolutely. And
So it just
but
fills you and goes through you.
right,
So it,
right.
it stays in your body. The light stays in your body, but it also goes through you, and it feeds everybody else. Kind of, I love the Care Bear stare. It's the
Yeah.
Care Bear stare.
And I mean, there is technology to measure this. So there's something called gas discharge visualization, a technique to measure the biofield. So we're not even just talking about concepts. We're talking about as you're working with someone like Mary Magdalene or the divine, you're actually this is why they painted saints and stuff with all of the light
The
coming from their
glow.
body.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, you and I have that too. The more that we don't try to figure out everything on our own, but turn it over and just have that sense of inner peace and allow ourselves to really rest in that, to handle everything that's going on in our body and all of that, then this radiance is allowed to really be there.
Without draining you, right? Without
Yeah,
draining,
no,
without
there's
taking your life force by filling
no.
you.
And certainly being around certain people to put that shield around you so that, there's definitely bad actors out there that will be glom onto people of radiance and try to extract it. And for us to really be present in our body, just you mentioned something about that earlier, to really have a knowing what's going on and protect our light, because we're not servants to the world. Have dignity and honor and tap in, but steward that light so that it doesn't, we're not here just to drain ourselves in any way. So
Jenny, thank you so much for today. I feel like we need to have a part two. I hope we can, because this topic I feel like we could talk about for 4 days. I was going to say hours, but it's just anyway, I just could eat it up really. And I hope that our listeners have really just gotten something from this. And if they want to learn more, or take one of your courses, I don't know if you're still offering the Mary Magdalene course,
yeah,
aren't you? Okay. And she has other great stuff too. But where would they find you?
it's just drjennymartin.com.
Okay, very simple. drjennymartin.com, and Jenny as Jenny. And I will put that link in the show notes as well.
Yeah. I
Oh,
always enjoy our conversations. So thank you.
me
Sarah.
too.
Thanks for
Me
the
too.
invitation.